Welcome to the Writer Reads Flash Fiction from another 365 days of flash fiction, month 4, day 9, A Haunting Past. I stared at the screen. You were beautiful men. All sound of movement paused and I looked up. Reynard regarded me with a quizzical stare, and I realized what I'd said. My jaw dropped. Oh, I mean, I looked down at the screen and over at the man, keeping both the real and the earlier version in my line of sight. The beauty was still there, but indescribably refined and sad. I'm sorry. He gave me a crooked smile. And am I still beautiful? Well, it wasn't like he couldn't see me making comparisons. I thought about the question and blushed. Yes? The answer came out, a whisper, almost choked, and Reynard set the tea towel on the bench. Two strides brought him to stand beside me, not looking at the screen, just looking at me. I kept my eyes down, studying my hands in my lap, and finally he sighed and sat on the coffee table beside the laptop. You know those days are long over. His words drew a crooked smile from me, and I chuckled softly, daring to reach out and lay a hand on his thigh. But the men who lived them are still here. I gestured toward the screen. Don't you ever wonder where they've gone? I lifted my head in time to see his expression grow bleak. He rose abruptly to his feet. No, I know where they are. Really? It was news to me. Oh, yes, he admitted, and then went on. My deepest hope is that they cannot say the same for me. He raised the coffee pot. Join me? I nodded. They say one should never meet their heroes, but I had no regrets. Reynard and I had been lovers, casual acquaintances, neither of us daring to admit how much we felt. That changed as he poured the coffee, leaving the laptop open in front of us. Beowulf, Loki, Coyote, and Panther, he said, indicating each one. Guitarist, drummer, violinist, and flautist. We made such beautiful music together. I quirked an eyebrow, and he laughed. Yes, that way too. But those were different days. I waited for him to say they were young, but he didn't. Instead, he softly repeated, different days, and stroked his finger over Beowulf's shoulder. Do you miss him? I asked, and his mouth tilted in a regretful smile. I miss all of them. He held up a finger as I opened my mouth to ask the logical question. It is safer if we remain apart and they never find me. Safer for you, too. He turned, his face fierce as he laid a hand on my shoulder. Tell me you have not called them. I shook my head. Why would he think I'd do something like that? He relaxed and handed me the coffee. Black and bitter, he remarked. So very unlike you. Again, I blushed. What can I say? Some things I like just the way they are. Don't you ever want to intensify the flavor? He inquired. Discover what it might be like if it was stronger? It depends on the brew. I watched him add cream and sugar to his, wondering what he was trying to say, because nothing was ever as simple as that was just the way he liked his coffee. He caught my gaze. Like my women, strong, but with a little softness and sweetness, he told me, stirring the cup. I almost choked on the sip I'd just taken, and he smiled, reaching out a hand and closing the laptop lid. Tilting his head to look at me, he added, I'd like more of you in my life if... Lowering the cup, I rested it on my knee. Reynard gestured at the laptop. That is my distant and very much divorced past. I'd like a different future. With me, I stated, studying his face. With you in it, he confirmed. Preferably more blended than we are now. I would like that, I managed, my heart leaping and plummeting. But, he asked, picking up on my hesitation. I gestured at the laptop. Like you, I have a past. His lips parted to answer that, but I hadn't finished, so I laid a finger against them. Unlike you, I continued, that past is still my present and will continue to my future. I know, he said, and I raised troubled eyes. I don't think you do, I told him. There'd been a reason I'd liked the casual aspect of our relationship. This time it was his turn to place a hand on my thigh. Agent, we both know you work for Odyssey as more than a tour guide, he stated, and I closed my mouth, trying not to show the truth of that on my face. Reynard cocked his head and smiled. To answer the how, he gestured at the laptop. Odyssey are not the only ones with an information network. How else do you think I know where these guys are and keep us safe from them? Us? I managed. He nodded. If they knew I'd fallen for someone, you'd be in as much danger as I would be if they discovered me. I am content to live in the shadows. Again, he gave me that quiet smile. Especially as you dwell there too. Well, there was no denying that. I reached out, sliding my fingers through his hair and curling my hand around the back of his head to pull him close. Our cups rattled as we set them on the coffee table, but we didn't look to make sure they remained upright. More blended? I asked, and kissed him before he could reply. We parted, breathless, and moved closer. Much more, he murmured, winding an arm around me and drawing me in. Then yes,